Well, Dr. Sylvia, thank you very much for joining us for Newsnight tonight.
Thank you so much for the invitation.
Oh, so formalin seems to be the tip of the iceberg. We've had stories and rumors of pigs being injected with, or being fed on ARVs, chicken being injected with all kinds of things. How bad is the situation from where you are standing?
Thank you very much for this opportunity. Again, I'm Dr. Sylvia Baluka, President Uganda Veterinary Association. To answer you, first of all, to say the context correct, I would like us to talk about food safety, not only focus on the animal products.
We are going to get to general food safety, but we'd like to know, when it comes to the meats that we are consuming, how bad is it?
The concerns that have been raised, including using ARVs, including people using human drugs and injecting them in the chicken, most of these things are true because the veterinary profession, we are widespread. We are present in every district, in every sub-county, and we do get feedback from our colleagues.
And you've tested
right
and found that this is actually happening.
Some studies have also been done, and they confirm that people are actually misusing not only ARVs but even antibiotics.
Okay. Well, does Uganda have a policy to guard against harmful pesticides, for example, which if used on food could have adverse effects on somebody?
Yes, we do have policies, we do have laws in place, and even the drugs that we use in the food animals actually come with what we call the withdrawal period, which indicates that if an animal has been treated with drug X, it is not fit for consumption until 4 days after the last treatment. We have all the things in place. What we need is just to strengthen the supervision, the monitoring, and maybe to do more public education so that the farmers appreciate why they need to observe these requirements.
Oh, what are the health effects? Because clearly a lot of us have probably eaten this meat that has all of these substances. What are the effects on the human body?
There are several effects. One of them that is already showing in the hospitals and is antimicrobial resistance, which means that when given the right dose of a particular antibiotic, when someone is sick, that should actually treat you, you don't actually respond until when they have to change. You hear doctors talking of changing from first line drugs to another line, second line and third line.
Because this has failed.
That means that the first line drugs have failed because they have been misused. It's also possible that if someone was exposed to small doses of antibiotic residues in the eggs or the meat, actually the resistance can come from that.
Okay.
Of course, I don't refute the possibility that even human drugs are abused because they a lot of self-medication by patients.
Okay. So we know that a lot of these, the butchers, well, they cannot afford the fridges and all of these options that they have. What would be the alternative that you would give for them to stop using these hazardous chemicals?
To respond to that, first of all, I do believe that everyone who has enough capital to operate a butcher can actually afford a refrigerator. If we look at the people selling sodas, because most of the consumers, especially during this dry season, January, it is very hot, many people want cold drinks. Everyone, however small a retailer is who sells drinks, actually is able to refrigerate. I think the butcher operators even have more capital than a small kiosk that is selling soda in the tax pack. So that one is not really an excuse. However, looking at the way it is today, the butcher operators, some have tried refrigerating meat. But in the Ugandan culture, actually most of us don't want to buy frozen meat.
Yes.
Most people, if they find that the meat is in the fridge and frozen, they consider it not to be fresh.
Yes.
Many Ugandans would like to buy meat that has blood dripping.
So what is the option?
Well, there are other options that can be used to get rid of the flies. We know that the hotel industry, there are chemicals that are approved for the food industry specifically, that are safe. And there are other chemicals that don't necessarily kill, but they keep away the flies. There are some
preservation?
Yes.
Preservation.
Okay, in terms of preservation, well, the way our food chain operates in Uganda right now, because cold storage is one of the best options of keeping meat for a longer time.
Yeah.
That's what is being practiced in Europe, that's what is being practiced in the US, but that doesn't seem to work for us. The assumption is that all the meat that is obtained on a particular day is sold in one day, which is not the case, which doesn't happen. First of all, I make an appeal to us as consumers not to reject frozen meat. Many butcher operators, if they kept meat in the fridge and we actually bought it, I'm sure many people would actually have refrigerators that are working, that are functional in their butchers.
Oh, but I wanted to ask you, beyond the meat, is there something else we should be looking at?
As far as we are concerned, as a veterinary profession, we need to secure all the value chains for all the animal products. And we should not only look at the retail point, like a butchery. We need to look at the whole value chain right from the farm. We need to ascertain that the farmers are actually following the guidelines. They're not misusing the drugs, they're not giving animals overdose, and they're not milking an animal that is on treatment and are selling that milk to go into the food value chain. Because when somebody treats an animal today or yesterday, and then the milk is sold, and it goes into our milk, the processing, or from the local milk collection centers, commonly called as dairies, actually people are consuming that milk, which they shouldn't consume. If someone keeping layers, chicken that are laying eggs for sale, it has the whole flock on treatment, we expect that those eggs should not be sold. However, these are not being followed. And when we talk to the farmers, they say, who will compensate them? Because these chicken are eating. How can they afford not to sell the eggs, and yet they eat a lot and they eat on a daily basis?
Well, Dr. Sylvia, because our time is fast spent, I'd just like to get a comment from you on how our overall food safety standards are.
Generally speaking, we have a lot to do to improve on our food safety standards. Besides being a veterinarian, I'm a food safety expert trained in the US and Europe.
Yes.
I'm familiar with the European Food Safety Authority, I'm familiar with the Food Safety Modernization Act in the US, and we are far from where we should be, but now that we have started discussion, my expectation is, my appeal, that we continue. All of us as stakeholders, we shouldn't be blaming the butcher operators, but all the stakeholders need to do soul searching. We need to examine ourselves whether we have done what we are supposed to do. It begins with the farmers. The farmers should not send sick animals into the food value chain. No sick animal should leave the farm for slaughter to begin with. And no farmer should sell an animal that they know very well is on treatment for slaughter. We need to start from there. And then we need methods. We need laboratories that are functional, right from sub-county level, district level, up to the slaughter places. We need to be able to take samples and look at the residues. As a country, we need to set our residue limits and know that if we find, we take a sample and we find this meat has the chemical residues above this limit, then it will not go into the food chain. It will not be released to the market. We need to strengthen the system to be able to do that.
Well, thank you very much. Dr. Sylvia Baluka-Angubua is the president of the Uganda Veterinary Association. Unfortunately, we have to cut the interview short because our time is fast spent, but that was Newsnight.